Okay, everybody, how are you guys doing? This is Josh from Lead and Iron. Today, I am going to be looking at M1, Apple's new Apple Silicon, and to see what the differences are, if there are any, essentially. And I want to kind of get you guys' input to see which one. I'm leaning towards the MacBook Pro, but the MacBook Air seems to be the same thing. So let's get into this. I just wanted to let you know that I am trying to podcast and upload a YouTube video right now. Well, not upload, but record one. So I'm trying to keep an eye on both. So this is kind of interesting. My first time doing it. So here we go. All right. So the first column I have is MacBook Air M1 2020. Starting price is $999. If you're a student, it's $899. So if you're going to school, hey, you get a $100 discount on both. And I think only like a $20 discount on the Mac Mini. So essentially, it's a 3.3 Retina display. It has the 8-core Apple M1 chip, which the way they explained it was 4 cores are for high performance and 4 cores are for like light loads. So I don't know if that's technically 8 core. I mean, technically it is, but I don't know. You can get up to 16 gigabytes of unified memory. And that's one thing that I kind of didn't understand was why are those only able to go to 16? Like that's the max memory you can get, which I found weird. And up to 2 gigabytes or 2 terabytes of storage. 2 gigabytes, could you imagine that? One thing that did change though is the Mac Pro has 20 hours of battery life compared to 18 of the Mac Air. The Mac Air normally used to have more battery life than the Mac Pro because, of course, there's a fan and it was more powerful. But now it's changed with Apple Silicon with the M1 chip. MacBook Air does have Touch ID, and the MacBook Pro has Touch Bar and Touch ID. So, kind of interesting to find out there to see kind of things. But now, the base model MacBook Air though is they all have the 8-core GPU except for the base model MacBook Air that has a 7-core GPU. So they either made two different chips or one chip and decided to lock down that other core. Now, would somebody that knows what they're doing, would they be able to unlock that eighth core, or is it just totally removed? That's another thing that was kind of weird to me. But some of the main differences that was brought up was the MacBook Air was able to edit 4K video without missing, pretty much skipping a beat. So it's like how, I don't know how many people do 8K video, and I should say because the MacBook Pro is able to do 8K video. So that's like one of the main huge differences. And it's also supposed to be like skipping frames, like real time. But to me, is like, how did you do that with essentially the same M1 chip? So yeah, 8 cores, CPU with 4 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores, up to 8-core GPU and 16-core neural engine. So the neural engine is pretty much like Arnold Schwarzenegger was like, my CPU is a neural net processor. So it learns. Essentially, that's what that is in real life now, that you can own at home. So the Mac Mini now, I kind of thought about it because it has the same M1 chip, 8 core, up to 16 gigs, only 16 gigs again, up to 2 terabytes of storage. And of course, it doesn't have battery life because you plug it in. So now they're all able to, if you're able to afford the new display that they have, you can connect to it. So that's one plus 6K. Normally, like before, like on my 2017 MacBook Air, you were able to pull the SSD out, get an adapter, and then put another SSD, higher storage SSD in. Now you can't do that. So one thing you should do is buy the storage that you think that you're going to need. One thing though is, now that they have Thunderbolt, but they only have 2 Thunderbolts on there, is you can get an SSD, super fast SSD, for cheaper than getting the storage through Apple. So just keep that in mind. Memory is the same way. If you need that 16 gig, just get it. It's like, I think it's $180 or $200, something like that. That's essentially what I would think is important. Both have Retina displays. Both are 2560 by 1600 pixels. The MacBook Air has 400 nit brightness, and MacBook Pro has 500 nit brightness. Wide color P3 on both. True Tone technology on both. The cameras are 720p on both. But I guess they had something that clears it up from within. So one of the differences is the audio. They have stereo speaker on the MacBook Air, but they have stereo speaker with high dynamic range on the Pro. Support for Dolby Atmos playback, wide stereo sound, same thing. Okay, so 3 mic array with directional beam foaming. Studio quality. So the next one is studio quality. So it goes with a Pro things. So one has 78 keys because of the function keys, and one is 65 or 66 keys. So the MacBook Pro is 65 because they have the Touch ID, Touch Bar and stuff. Force Touch is the same. Trackpad, Magic Keyboard. They all have Wi-Fi 6 with 5.0 Bluetooth, two Thunderbolt USB 4 ports, not 4, but 2 Thunderbolt USB 4. Essentially, you're going to be able to run all apps on either your device. That's a pretty big deal, I would say. They didn't go quite past with like the things I wanted to show with a side-by-side comparison, but one was able to do 8K video and another 4K video without skipping a beat. Now, I have the ability to record 4K. I do not have the ability to run 8K, but that does not mean that I won't have it later. So, is it worth the $300? Do you see the $300 potential in getting a Pro from an Air? And that's like one question that was in my head when I kind of saw all this stuff out was, do I see $300 potential? And technically it's yes. I do. Because you're able to change with the times with the 8K with a Pro. But how long is it going to be before I'm able to record 8K? Would I be able to buy the new M2 or whatever, whatever the next silicon is. With the Mac Mini, I do have a Mac Mini. I rarely turn it on now. Don't get me wrong, but because I've been building PCs, of course, so I've been really, digging my creation. But it's from 2011, so I think the Mac Mini is also up there for me because it does seem to have the same capabilities. I have screens everywhere. Now, one thing I want to compare these minis here: a core, a CPU. The only thing different is going to be your storage option. It looks like. So one's $699, one's $899. But they didn't really say if they can do the 8K video. M1 Mac Mini 8K. Let's see what pulls it up. Trying to see here. Give me time. I'm reading here real quick, trying to see if I can find that. Mac Mini, 3 times. Everything was also like 3 times faster than the CPU and 6 times faster GPU, but they never really just said what. Coming to find out is for the Mac Mini anyway, is from the last Mac Mini. That's good to know though, because that's pretty. 18 more port, hardly enough for drive, 4K TV or 4K monitor. Okay. It doesn't say. Anyway, essentially, that's what I wanted to talk about was the MacBook Air and MacBook Pro though, because I'm seriously thinking about the Mac Pro. Now, let's say if I were to buy one right now, how would I spec it out? So essentially, I would probably go with a 256 gig. And the only reason I'm saying that is because you can get storage cheaper, external storage cheaper, especially with a Thunderbolt, with an external drive. So, you save your money there, so you can do 16 gigabytes of memory since it's all soldered in. So, you kind of save it there to put it somewhere else. So that would come out to $14.99. And I am a student, so I would get it for like $100 cheaper. But essentially, I think that's what I would do. Because if you went with a 512 and you went with 16 gigabytes of memory, and you're looking at $1,700. So, Thunderbolt SSD external. And here I'm just picking on the very first thing I see. And it's going to be cheaper if you go this route. Because for $189, you get a terabyte of G Drive. It's a G Drive mobile SSD up to 560 megabytes, which I guess isn't too quick, but for $189. So if you do all your work and you put it on the external drive and you just kind of keep that 256 for boot and your small files, hey, I think this is better off going this route. So you figure it's going to be about $200 or a little bit more. It could be a little bit more, which is fine. but you figure maybe less than $200. External drive, my recommendation. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap up that video. Tell me what you think about the new Mac or Apple Silicon M1. What route you would go, and what, how you would configure your machines. Would you go with a Mac Mini? Just kind of like, I wish I can get my hands on all three, but I don't have like $5,000 or $6,000 to get three of those machines. I would hope one day that I'd be able to, but it's okay. I'll get there. Well, eventually. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. And like I said, let me know. Please drop a like or a follow or anything. I'll talk to you guys later. See you later. Bye.